Hi guys, and welcome back to this piece. I'll go ahead and have the link to the first half because this is actually the second half where I do all the coloring and everything. And the first video I just did the sketching and the line art. But yeah, so when I started coloring this one, I knew that I didn't want it to be like an ordinary colored owl. I didn't want it to have this local color where owls usually are very brown or more of this very muted natural color to it. And I wanted this piece to have a lot of life and energy and a lot of color. So I knew going into this one that I did really want it to be in a nighttime scene. So that's really what kind of based my coloring off of, was that I wanted it to have cool tones throughout it. I wanted it to feel like a really bright, saturated, poppy nighttime scene, but I still wanted it to have that nighttime feel to it. And I also wanted it to feel very magical and kind of mysterious, and that's really why I gravitated more towards these purpley colors. I've also been trying out a lot more lately than I really have ever before, trying to have elements that are not line arted in the piece. Like how I have this kind of this bush shape in the background. I knew that I wanted to, from the beginning, include this kind of a background element, but I wanted to try out doing it without line art. That way I can see if it would make it recede more into the background and feel more like it's distanced and take up less focus when you're actually looking at the piece. So I think that this was pretty successful. It was definitely a good thing to try out, and I am really enjoying kind of this look to it and the freedom that comes with being able to include elements that aren't line arted, because there's just a lot more that I can play with it when I have the ability to do really strict, sharp lines for everything, or if there's elements that I want to try out having them be lineless and more sharp and graphic like these, I have those two options that I can really fine-tune exactly what I want for my pieces to look like, instead of feeling like I need to do everything with one method and have everything just cemented into place from the beginning when I'm doing the line art. It gives me a lot more ability to change and add elements, and I think that's pretty exciting. I think I'll really enjoy figuring this out and including more ways that I can use this sort of an element to it. And we already passed this, but I did want to mention, when I finally changed the color of the beak and the talons from this really bright saturated yellow into a tone that was a lot more cool toned, it instantly made the piece work a lot better for me. It really harmonized things, where when it was this really bright contrasting color compared to the other stuff and it was really warm, it made it the focal point of the piece. It really brought the eye to it, where it wasn't something that was necessary. I didn't want that to be the focal point. I wanted the focal point to be the eyes of the owl as they got more and more open. So it really was more distracting and it wasn't helping, and I just kind of automatically put in this yellow where I didn't even think about it at the beginning. I just put it down, which is how I work, and that's okay. But when I finally realized that that was one of the issues and I fixed it, it just put all the puzzle pieces kind of back where it belonged, and it really just made the piece feel a lot more whole and like it was going in the right direction that I wanted it to, as opposed to where it was before, where it felt a little bit mismatched. And I loved adding in the highlights for this piece in particular. It just really made the owl pop out a lot more, and it accentuated the edges of the owl, where, especially where she starts coming out of the framework of the piece, I feel like it really just helps push her past that and makes it come a lot more forward. And I know that I've mentioned it in comments, but I've never actually said it in a video, I don't think. But when I do the highlights, what I like to do is I have it on its own separate layer on top of everything else and all the colors, and I set that layer mode to overlay, and I really love the effect it has. It changes the way that the colors underneath look in a very really saturated, colorful, bright way, and I really love that effect. So yeah, I love overlay. Usually when I'm doing highlights like this, it's almost always used with overlay. So when I started this piece, I actually anticipated spending a lot less time on it, just because in my head it seemed a lot simpler and smaller of a piece. But as I was working on it, I just got more and more invested in it, and I was really loving how it looked, and I was getting really excited about it, so I ended up spending a lot more time on it. And I'm really happy that I did. I love the outcome, and I feel like it really did push me in the directions that I wanted to practice in, especially for more sequential art. So I really am excited about this piece, and I think that I'll actually include it in my portfolio now, my official professional portfolio. So it's really exciting to be able to walk away from a piece that I didn't anticipate it turning into anything nearly as polished or finished as this, but then end up with a piece that I'm really proud of. So yeah, I'm really happy with this one. And that is actually the finished version of this one. So thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to hit subscribe so you can catch all my future art videos, and I will see you at my next one.